Hello, my name is Jared Ludlow, Publications Director at the BYU Religious Study Center, your weekly resource for gospel scholarship. And today I'd like to share some possible resources that can accompany your Come Follow Me reading for June 3rd through 9th, Mosiah 29 through Alma 4. The first one is an article called Likening the Scriptures unto Us. It's by Elder Dean L. Larson, General Authority Emeritus, and it comes from a volume the RSC published called A Book of Mormon Treasury, Gospel Insights from General Authorities and Religious Educators. So here's a few points from this article. First, the Book of Mormon has unusual value for us by virtue of what we can learn from the experiences of the people whose record it is. In some respects, our review of the historical events in the book permits us to see a reflection of ourselves. As the book of Mosiah concludes, the people of Nephi have been established under a government of elected judges. Alma, the son of Alma, has been named as the first chief judge. He is also the presiding officer of the church. It is a good time. The great love felt by the people for King Mosiah has laid a strong foundation for the new government. The church is well established, and the people rejoice because of the liberty which has been granted unto them. However, challenges soon confront the leaders in this new system. He also points out that we've been assured that in this last dispensation of the fullness of times, there will be no universal apostasy. When the Lord appears again in his glory, he will find a people who will have remained faithful, and who will be ready to receive him and join with him in the completion of his work. But the fact that there will not be a complete apostasy in this last dispensation does not mean all who have received the gospel and become members of the church will remain faithful. So here's part of his conclusion. We have a solemn obligation to the Lord, to ourselves, to our posterity, and to the many good people in the world who are looking for the right way, to preserve a community of saints whom the Lord can bless and who can serve as a beacon and a sanctuary to all who love the Lord and seek to do his will. May we be wise enough and honest enough with ourselves to learn from the scriptural examples preserved for us and avoid the tempting of the adversary who desires to cheat our souls and lead us carefully down to his depths of despair and misery. May we be fervent enough in our faith and love of the Lord and his work that we'll be more than passive camp followers in our church membership. May we be assertive and aggressive in standing for all that is right and pure and good. Another article is called The Government by the Voice of the People, a Witness and a Warning, by Byron Merrill, an ancient scripture faculty member here at BYU, and comes from a volume the RSC published called The Book of Mormon, Mosiah, Salvation Only Through Christ. And here he focuses, particularly at the end of the Book of Mosiah, on the change of the government, and talks about chapter 29, which furnishes insight into a prophetic warning from a pivotal transition in Nephite experience, a transition from kingship to government by the voice of the people. It briefly outlines the meaning, purpose, and consequences of a people's answering for their own sins, both moral and political. Another point he makes is that Mosiah's proposed title, Judge, is the same one used to denote the leaders of ancient Israel who preceded the reign of King Saul. The Old Testament judges probably held general administrative and management responsibilities rather than functioning in an exclusively judicial capacity. And then he points out that if this promised land was a land of liberty, even under the Nephite kings, why did Mosiah propose such a radical change? The answers lie in realizing that the pinnacle of freedom comes only when the responsibility for societal and moral decisions is placed squarely on the shoulders of each individual. This responsibility includes not only making individual decisions, but also acting collectively for the good of society as a whole. And here's some thoughts from his conclusion. The parallels between the Nephite reign of the judges and the latter-day American experience suggest that Mormon included his record of the reign of the judges as a witness of what had happened within an earlier experiment with government by the voice of the people on this land which is choice above all other lands. He also included it as a sober warning to his readers that the American experience will terminate in an equally calamitous breakdown into chaos and tragedy unless we heed the lessons taught by the Book of Mormon. These lessons revolve around one fundamental truth. The inhabitants of this land must love and serve the God of the land, who is Jesus Christ, or prepare to be swept off when they reach the fullness of iniquity. The third article is called The Record of Alma, a prophet pattern of the principles governing testimony. And it's by Fred Woods, a religion faculty member here at BYU, and comes from the volume the RSC published called The Book of Mormon, Alma, the Testimony of the Word. And he points out that in his record, Alma sets forth the most detailed pattern in all the standard works of the principles that govern testimony. It is interesting to note that over a third of the Book of Mormon references to testimony are found in the record of Alma. The principle of testimony is found early in the record of Alma, in the first year of the reign of the judges. Nehor had introduced priestcraft and was bearing down against the church with false testimony. This created the need for bearing pure, true testimony. A third point he makes is discerning the need to devote all of his energies to spiritual concerns. Alma gave up the chief judgeship so that he might go among his people, seeing no way that he might reclaim them save it were in bearing down impure testimony against them. Knowing that the power of pure testimony had a great tendency to lead the people to do that which was just, Alma also recognized that it would have a more powerful effect upon the minds of the people than the sword or anything else. So here's part of his conclusion. The record of Alma has taught us the prophetic pattern of the principles governing testimony. And he'd gone through other chapters later on in Alma to show Alma bearing testimony in some of these principles. These principles include the necessity of bearing pure testimony, the procedure for bearing witness, the law of witnessing, and the consequences which occur in the lives of all concerned when we bear pure testimony of the gospel of Jesus Christ. These principles of testimony can and should be applied in every facet of church teaching.